He drinks 2 martinis at the same time, because that's the kind of rugged guy he is. Today it's 077. Fleming. Bob Fleming. Welcome to Fighting Femmes, Fiends, and Fanatics. I'm Steve Mayhem. And here's our hero, setting up the old transmitter in a plant trick. Now, if there's any doubt about this place and time, that disappears with Carlos Savina's jazzy, jet-set theme music. It's the 1960s, and the world can't get enough of super spies, gorgeous women, exotic locales, and gadgets. International movie distributors shed no shame conflating the James Bond phenomenon with their own, more modestly budgeted counterparts. The most common English language title for today's movie is 077, Killers Are Challenged. It's also known as Mission Casablanca. It was the second of 2 Eurospy adventures starring Richard Harrison as Bob Fleming.
Here, come back if you let the Russians get their dirty hands on that microfilm.
Otherwise, I have a free hand.
Yes, and permission to kill.
007 had a license to kill. 077 gets a permission slip. In other words, go shoot anybody you want. We don't give a shit. While Bob Fleming is a perfectly respectable, stock-sounding name, a 2-syllable name that starts with phlegm doesn't quite have the panache of the name Bond, which evokes currency and fine bonded goods. Put it this way, I don't think European starlets were lining up to become phlegm girls. Incidentally, while ownership of 007 may have been ironclad, codename 077 was used in several series worldwide. The Bob Fleming character, as played by Richard Harrison, is pretty typical of most Eurospy heroes. Generally speaking, they're cartoonishly exaggerated versions of the Sean Connery Bond. Brash and somewhat obnoxious, Fleming is a bit of a smug smartass that can settle scores with a fist in the face or gunplay. And of course, Bob Fleming charms the ladies with real smooth talk.
You must have the delicate stomach of a sergeant in the Salvation Army.
What do you mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Luckily, the plot is easier to understand than Bob Fleming's baffling pickup lines. Rather than the usual Eurospy microfilm MacGuffin, the device that drives the plot of this movie is very contemporary half a century later.
We'd been on the verge of discovering a new source of energy.
If the results of your research are accurate, in the future, all traditional ways of producing energy will become obsolete. And now I suppose you're wondering who could be interested in seeing that this discovery is delayed as long as possible.
One thing is clear. This trio of scientists have invented a surefire formula for getting themselves killed. Producers of energy, particularly oil, don't take kindly to being put out of business. So, say goodbye to Scientist 1. And hasta la vista, Scientist 2. And now, Agent Bob Fleming is given the assignment of protecting the priceless ass of Scientist number 3, which leads to the movie's central and most welcome gimmick, a femme fatale version of Charlie's Angels, employed by a mysterious Texas oil tycoon. Now, this movie actually predated the Angels TV series by a decade, so if there's any connection at all, it's pretty tenuous. The girl gang novelty is set up by having most of the male gang members suffer a high attrition rate early on. In a scene right out of the Spy vs. Spy comic strip, a goon tries to plant a bomb on our wily agent. And there's Bob Fleming at the airport bar. Middle of the day, and he's putting away scotch like it's Pepsi.
What will you have, sir?
Orangeade.
Orangeade. What kind of tough guy steps to the bar and orders Orangeade?
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Please. I don't know how it happened, but mother. Really, I'm so sorry. Never mind. Please forgive me.
Kaboom. Nice going, boys. Time now for the girls to take charge.
Myra, take care of the other man. It must look like an accident.
One problem. The catty girl gang members do not get along.
What are you doing? Just listening. I don't trust you too far. All right, then you call him.
So, it's not long before we're down in the dungeon, with Janine Renault giving a good dominatrix whipping to Mitsuko for messing up a mission. Perhaps this bit of business was the scene that caught director Jess Franco's eye, as Janine Renault would soon turbocharge some of Franco's dependably kinky exploitation movies. Now, it's not supposed to be entirely clear for a time if the girl gang chief is Terry, the demure wife of the surviving scientist, and played by actress Wandisa Guida, or the beautiful but deadly Velka, played by Susie Anderson.
I just threw somebody off the balcony. Please, hurry.
Yeah, well, tossing a guy off the balcony is all in a day's work for a femme fatale. But hotel security tends to frown on that kind of thing. Just as Bondi and Escapades relied on glamorous women, the formula called for a Mr. Big. But in this case, the criminal mastermind has a tragic flaw. No, it's not the fact that he's bound to a wheelchair. It's a much more serious affliction for a villain.
I'm not a killer.
Well, it's a good thing this embarrassment to villainy has some girls around to do his dirty work, and they're willing to kill anybody, including each other. 077 Killers Are Challenged was directed by Antonio Margheriti, who usually worked under the name Anthony M. Dawson. Margheriti was a very busy director who generally specialized in horror and sci-fi films. The Eurospy genre, though, was not really his forte. The only other Eurospy in this director's filmography is Lightning Bolt from 1966, and that also co-starred Wandisa Guida, billed as Wanda Lee. Now, while the direction in 077 Killers Are Challenged is efficient most of the time, there are some problems. As Killers reaches the finale, and at a time when the suspense should be ratcheting up, the movie launches into an overlong comic relief barroom brawl. This is a stand-in for the big-scale battle scene that typically occurs at this point in an action-adventure, but it's a weak substitute for hard-boiled mayhem. Killer's biggest problem, though, is the lack of a real supervillain. While having 3 or arguably 4 female heavies is a great novelty,
We have to get out of here.
the otherwise ho-hum narrative needs the spectacle of a criminal mastermind with a lavishly equipped lair, like this.
Fuel to level 2. Insert charge in the cave vault.
Despite its shortcomings, 077 Killers Are Challenged still has a lot of things going for it. Besides a bevy of beautiful women for the hero to romance, there's a modern blood for oil plot, some modest gadgets, colorful locales, and a great score by Carlo Savina, who composed music for over 150 movies, including The Godfather. The hero, Bob Fleming, lacks the complexity and ironic wit of James Bond, but that's understandable given the assembly line nature of Eurospy Bond imitations, and there were a gazillion of them. With that said, Harrison is actually pretty good at this type of thing. His character is one note. Enemy agents could drop a piano on his head, and he'd still retain that smart aleck smirk. But he's confident and relaxed on screen, and looks good throwing and taking punches. Overall, 077 Killers Are Challenged is a pretty unremarkable Bond ripoff. And if the terms imitation or ripoff sound like put-downs, no, that's exactly what they were, and exactly what they were intended to be. Producers from around the globe wanted to get in on the James Bond craze, and get in while the getting was good. With some exceptions, there wasn't time or money to develop carefully crafted plots or complex characters. Instead, these movies often doubled down on exactly what the audiences wanted: outlandish gimmicks, diabolical schemes of world conquest, and espionage.
Where is the microfilm?
I don't know.
Lovely, but lethal women.
Here, attractive women woo wanted men into death traps.
And swaggering, uncomplicated, intrepid heroes.
He's the action man. All kinds of action.
Don't.
A goer.
These Bondian spin-offs were hardly subtle, but even today, very easy to watch and enjoy. as a merely average Eurospy escapade, 077 Killers Are Challenged is still a lot of laughs and easy to recommend. For fighting Femmes, Fiends, and Fanatics, I'm Steve Mayhem. See you next time.
Baby,